When you hear the word patience, what's the first thing you think of? For most of us, it's just waiting. Gritting your teeth in traffic, standing in a super long line. But what if I told you there's a much deeper, more active, and honestly more powerful meaning to that word? A meaning that could be the key to changing how you face pretty much every challenge in your life. So let's unpack this ancient idea together.
Our guide for this is a classic text on Muslim psychology, written almost 700 years ago by the scholar Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah. It's this incredibly profound look into the human condition, with insights that are, frankly, just as mind-blowing today as they were back in the 14th century.
So that brings us right to the big question, doesn't it? Is patience really just about passively putting up with stuff, just enduring hardship? Or is it something else entirely? Well, the answer might actually surprise.
Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to figure out what true patience, what the source calls sabr, really is. We'll explore the inner battlefield where this all goes down, see its many surprising faces, and ask if it's something you're born with or something you can build. Then we'll get into how to support it, and finally we'll look at its toughest test.
All right. Let's start by totally re-examining what we think we know. We have to get past this passive idea of just waiting and dive into the active meaning of sabr. So the original Arabic word, sabr, it doesn't really mean to wait. The literal meaning is restriction and detention. Think about that for a second. It's more like actively holding something back or restraining it. But restraining what exactly?
In its spiritual sense, sabr is the act of preventing your own soul from falling into despair and panic. It's about consciously holding yourself back from, complaining all the time or tearing your clothes in a moment of grief. It's this deep inner strength that shows itself as outer composure.
This verse from the Quran is a perfect example. It uses a form of that same root word, but it's not telling you to wait with good people. It's telling you to bind yourself to them, to restrain yourself and stay with them for a noble purpose. See? It's a choice. It's an action.
So if patience is an active struggle, a fight, where does this fight even happen? Well, the text paints this really vivid picture of an inner battlefield that exists inside every one of us. The text gives us this incredible metaphor. Picture your soul as this powerful animal, a mount, that can either carry you to amazing places or to really devastating ones. Patience, or sabr, is the rein. It's the tool you use to guide that powerful, wild force. Without that rein, the animal just goes wherever its instincts pull it, for better or for worse. You see, every person has these two forces at war inside them. You've got the driving force, your intellect, your faith, that's pushing you toward what's actually good for you in the long run. And then you have the force of your whims and desires, pulling you toward instant gratification, which, let's be honest, can often hurt you. Patience is the strength that makes sure the right force wins that tug of war.
And that's the bottom line. The battlefield is your heart. And the weapons you have in this constant internal war are your patience, your courage, and your steadfastness. It's happening all the time.
But this idea of an inner struggle, it gets even more interesting. Sabr isn't just this one single virtue. It's actually a huge umbrella term that covers a whole range of positive traits that we see and use every single day.
The way the author explains it is that patience kind of changes its name depending on the situation. It's always the same core idea of active restraint, but it looks different when you apply it to different parts of your life.
And this is where the concept just blows up, in the best way. When you restrain your desires, that type of sabr is called chastity. When you restrain your anger, we call it forbearance. When you restrain the urge to run from danger, that's courage. When you hold back the desire for revenge, that's forgiveness. Even generosity is a form of patience. You're restraining your own stinginess. All of these incredible virtues are just different faces of sabr.
Now, this all sounds fantastic, but it begs a pretty obvious question, right? Are some people just born patient, while the rest of us are, well, out of luck? The text actually tackles this head-on.
So, according to the source, there are two ways to be a patient person. On one hand, you have people who are patient by nature. It's just their temperament. It's easier for them to hold back from doing the wrong thing. But then there's the other path. Patience by acquisition. This is for the person who actively fights, who struggles against their own impulses, and literally trains themselves until patience becomes a habit, like a second nature.
And this right here is the most hopeful part. This quote from the Prophet Muhammad really drives it home. Patience is a skill. It's something you can work on, something you can train for. If you just try to be patient, divine help will come to support you. So it's not some fixed trait you either have or you don't. It's a muscle that you can build.
Okay, so if it's a muscle we can build, how do we get to the gym? What are the exercises? Let's look at some super practical steps from the text for actively growing this virtue in our own lives.
The author makes this really beautiful point. God doesn't just command you to do something difficult and then, leave you hanging. Just like a disease is often sent with its cure nearby, the command to be patient comes with a whole toolkit to help you actually do it.
So here are a few of those tools. First, weaken the stimulus. Basically, avoid your triggers. It's way easier to win a fight you don't even start. Second, find healthy outlets. Redirect those natural instincts. Don't just try to crush them. Third, think about the harm. Really contemplate the negative fallout from being impatient. Fourth, remember you're being watched by the Creator. That awareness can be incredibly empowering. And finally, and this is crucial, actively ask for help, knowing that you can't do it all on your own.
Now for our final section. We've defined patience, we've seen its battlefield, we know how to build it. But when does it get put to the ultimate test? When is sabr the absolute hardest?
The text gives us a simple but really profound formula here. The hardest test of your patience happens when two things line up perfectly. Your motivation to do the right thing is low, and the temptation to do the wrong thing is not just strong, but it's also super easy and convenient.
And the text gives these three powerful examples of what that highest level of patience looks like. A ruler who has all the power and convenience to be unjust, but chooses not to be. A young person, full of strong desires, who has the opportunity for something indecent but abstains. A rich person, who could easily be stingy without anyone knowing, but instead chooses to give charity in secret. In every single case, the temptation is strong and convenient, and that's what makes their patience heroic.
So, we end right back where we started, with that powerful metaphor. If patience, sabr, is the rein that guides the powerful mount of your soul, what part of your life needs that rein the most right now? Is it your anger, your desires, your words? That's the question this 700-year-old text is still asking us today.